All right, so today's summer school session is about how to choose, place, and improve your take profits, your profit targets, basically. How do you decide when to get in and out? And in the last summer school session, we focused on stop losses, particularly from the perspective of using analytical skills to improve your stop losses. And so who remembers the 4 skills you need to make money trading? Put it in the chat if you remember the 4 skills to make money trading. You should know them by now because we went over them not only in my class, but we went over them again in last week's session. So who remembers? Type it in the chat. There are 4 skills you need to make money trading. And so who remembers, who wants to type in the chat? Or is everybody still a little slow from the July 4th? Wouldn't be surprised. I was a little slow getting up today. Nobody wants to take a shot? Come on, Justin, Victor, Constantine. You guys got to know. You have to know. You have to know. If you don't know, you're in trouble. You are in trouble. Is there a delay? Is there like a huge latency right now? Okay, there we go. Constantine's up. Buying and selling decisions. Very good. That's the first skill. Analytical skills. That's the second skill. Money or risk management. That's the third skill. And mindset. Very good. Got them all. Colbert came in. He's starting to come in with them. So cool. Okay, Constantine got all 4 of them. So we focused on the analytical skills for how to improve your stop losses and how to price them and choose them. And we're going to do the same. We're going to work on the analytical skills. How can you use your trading journal, your performance journal, your MyFX book, whatever it is you're using to improve your take profits. So we're going to work on 2 accounts. And Sasha was able to compile the stats on the second account. But we're going to work on 2 accounts. And let me download that while he's working on that. Okay, got that down. So we're going to work on 1 profitable account, and then we're going to work on 1 losing account. This is a losing account. And so the first thing you want to do is you want to kind of go into the trading activity and go to the history tab. And remember, if you click on profit, whatever the currency is, USD, EUR, or GBP, if you click on it, it will show all the losses, and if you click on it again, it'll show all the wins. So we're focusing on take profits. So in this case, we want to focus on the wins and take a look specifically at these wins. And then what you want to do is you want to start calculating the plus R per trade for the take profit and the SL. So if you think about it, I've already done the math, but just to give you the exercise and walk you through it. So this one has a 245 pip stop loss, and it has a 245 pip take profit and a 45 pip stop loss. So if you do the math on that, that comes out to a 5.4R. And so what we then want to do is put that onto a data sheet where you have in your A column, you have the plus R per trade, and I do it in 0.5 R increments. You can do it in 0.25 if you want to get a little bit more granular. And then what you do is you put, anytime you have an instance of like a 2R, 2.5R, 3R, 3.5R, whatever it is, you put a number in there. And that's what you do. So for this one, he has 2 of his on this first page. And I just went through the first page. And ideally, you want to go through all of them. But on this first page, you can see he had two winning trades that had plus 2R. He had 5 winning trades at 2.5R. He had 2 winning trades at 3R. He had 4 winning trades at 3.5R. And then as soon as he got above 4R, he had 1 winning trade at 4.5, 1 at 5, and 1 at 5.5. And then what you need to do is kind of look at this and be like, okay, how would this look out graphically? Sadly, my Excel skills are not that great, so I was toying with it for like 20 minutes trying to figure it out. If any of you know how to do this, that'd be great. But basically what you want to do is create an XY axis graph. And we can do this, we can draw this visually here. And on the x-axis is your plus R. And so each one would be like 0.5, 1R, 1.5, 2R, 2.5, 3R. And you go all the way up to your highest plus R trade. And then on the y-axis is your number of instances. So like you got 1 trade here, you got 2 trade here, you got 3 trade here, you got 4 trade here. And for every trade that you get, you mark it until you just put a dot until you get to the total number of trades. And so if we were to look at this particular graph on a sideways scale, it would basically look like this. So here is the plus R. We have a couple here. We have a big spike at 2.5R. Then it kind of comes down a little bit. Then we get another spike at 4R. And then it comes down to like 1 and like that, basically. So another way to draw this is basically, hey, this is like 0.5, 1R, 1.5, 2R. Once you get to 2R, he has a couple. Then he has 5 at 2.5R, down to 2. 4R, he has 4 at 3.5R, and it goes down to 1, and that's it. So this is how his graph looks. And it's almost like a bell curve. Now, what we do with this is then we kind of see what is our strongest combination. In some graphs, they will look very bell curve-ish. Some may be, very right slanted. Some may be left slanted. But the bottom line is you want to find that kind of sweet spot where you have a lot of instances of capturing that plus R consistently. And what we see with this student, let me erase some of this, is that they capture a lot between 2.5R. They got 5 trades at 2.5R, and they had 4 trades at 3.5R. If you look at after 3.5, they have very few. So statistically, they have a low probability of capturing any target above 4R, 4R and above. So now we can use this data, and when they start looking at future trades and they start calculating like, okay, based upon the price action, here's where I want to put my stop loss, here's my entry, here's my take profit, then they can take that and kind of map it to like, okay, does that make sense in terms of my average plus R that I can hit consistently? If their profit target based upon price action starts to look like 4R, 4.5R, 5, we know that that's statistically a low probability event for them. And so they shouldn't be going for a target for that. So then what they need to do is then look at the chart and be like, okay, I thought this would be the target, but this is like a 4 or 4.5 or 5R, and this is a low probability event for me. So what would be my next target? Okay, if I can't get this target, where would be my next target? And then you start looking at the chart and you're like, okay, here. And then you measure that out and you say, what does this come out to? Oh, this comes out to like a 3.5R, comes out to a 3R or 2.5R. Perfect. You're right at the peaks of what you can consistently hit. That's the target you should be going for. So this is a very powerful analytical way to improve your profit targets without having to do anything with your strategy, your entry, your stop loss, your chart pattern reading, or this candle or that. This is a way to improve your performance simply by looking at the analytics and the data and improving your analytical skills. So this is how this works, basically. And so we can see he can consistently hit a 2.5R target, and he can consistently hit a 3.5R target. So his general take profit target range should be between 2.5 and 3.5. He shouldn't go above 3.5, and he probably shouldn't be going below 2.5 as well. If he starts going below 2.5, he's undercutting himself because he can consistently get between 2.5 and 3.5. That's their sweet spot. So now you have an idea, irrespective of the price action context, the order flow, chart patterns, bars or candlesticks or anything like that, impulsive and corrective moves, you know what you should be consistently going for. You didn't have to change your strategy. You didn't have to change your pattern recognition skills. You didn't have to change your entry or stop loss. You didn't have to change how you read the price action on the chart. None of that. All you had to do was a simple analytics to improve your profit targets. Does that make sense? Victor saying makes sense. Constantine saying it makes sense. Okay, so that is the exercise on the winning trades, on the winning account. Let's take a look at the losing account. Sasha did send that over, and I have the document here. So this should work. And there we are. Perfect. Okay, so what do we see on this one here? We see that he has a really good ability to capture. He has, in the first 20 wins, 7 of them were at plus 2R, 4 of them were at 2.5R, 3 of them at 3R, and then after that it tapers off. So if you draw the graph, it kind of looks like this. A little bit of a bump there. So that's what it looks like. Or if you look at it vertically, a little bit of bump and that's it. So we know that this person should be between 2.5 to 3R. I think 3R should be like on the most cherry trades, but they can consistently hit these targets. There's no point in them going for 1.5R because they can consistently hit 2R, and there's no point in them going for 3.5R because it's not a high probability event. So they should be going for between 2.5, and on really cherry trades going for 3. Other than that, they should be inside this narrow range here. So again, a simple way to improve that. Now, what's interesting is that we can, as we go to their actual stats here, we can look at average win versus average loss and see if it aligns with that. So what do we see? Average win in terms of euros is 13.17 euros. Average loss is 5.23. So 2.5. So they are in alignment with their average plus R. Relatively. Yeah, 2.5. If they were to lower this to more 2R because they have a higher probability of hitting 2R than 2.5, then their accuracy will probably improve. They will probably improve. So this person is in alignment, but they're on the higher end of their spectrum. I would probably suggest them. Let's see what their accuracy is. Okay, accuracy is a little bit low. So let's take a look at this. Let's do the math on this. Their accuracy is, they have 78 longs, 102 shorts, which is 180 trades, and they've won 29.46. Okay, so 46 divided by 180. So 25% accuracy, that's really low. And so now we can start saying like, okay, we can improve this person's accuracy by having them go for a lot less than the 2.5R targets or 3R targets. And what we can do is we can look at their losses and see, are they going for too high trades, too high, and plus R in this? And what you would start to do is you could go through this and see, is there a discrepancy? There's a lot of 2Rs in this. 2R, 2R. It almost seems like they went for a fixed 2R. That seems very calculated. This one's not. 140 and a 35 pip stop loss. That's too much. It's a 4R. This person should never go for this. So they shouldn't have even taken this trade. This one is kind of close. 18. 2.7R. It's on the high end. Probably should have reduced it a little bit. So they could start going through trades and seeing, are there instances where they went for too high a plus R trade? And, like this one here, this is a 3R. They probably shouldn't be going for this. This one's close to a 3R. This one is definitely over a 3R. So we start to find instances. This is a 3R. So we start to find instances. This is a 3R. This is a 4R. So now we can start taking away losses in the future that they shouldn't have been taking to begin with by saying, hey, you shouldn't have gone for these. We don't know if those trades will win or not, but we know that they shouldn't be going for that high a plus R. So that's going to improve accuracy over time. This again right here is also way too high. This is definitely a 3R right here. Like there's a fair amount where they're going for too big of targets. In terms of how to improve stop losses, see the last lesson on that. That was last week's lesson. Okay, so we're getting some comments in here. You compare the diagram to the second account. That's why both are correct now. Okay. Constantine is saying, IMO stats strongly depend upon your price action reading skill. So as a trader should revise stats from time to time, 1 to 2 times per year. Stats strongly depend upon your price action reading skill. Well, yeah, your price action reading skill is going to determine how you choose your entry, stop loss, and take profits. And that will influence your stats over time. So when is a good time to periodically review the stats? I suggest every quarter when it comes to this. I'd suggest not changing your trading plan inside of a quarter because you don't go through enough trades and enough stats and instances to develop a stable baseline. If you don't develop a stable baseline, you're changing variables before you've really been able to test whether they work out or not. So I believe that is how you should do it every quarter, and ideally a minimum of 100 trades. So every quarter. Yuan saying analysis is done from 16 to 19 trades from the number of winning instances. From what number of trades can you start doing this? This is a great question. So we just did the first 20 trades just to give you an example of how to do it. How many trades should you do it? On all of them. You should do it on all of them. You should do it on all of them. If you have 50 trades, you should do it on 50. If you have 100, you do it on 100. In the beginning, the first time you do this, if you have like 100, 200, 500 trades, this is going to be tedious. But after you've done the bulk of the work that one time, then you just do it once every quarter, then it's not a big deal. That's not hard to keep up with. So yeah, Justin Goodman saying you should look into Google Sheets. Once you start creating the journal and some basic algos, it will generate different algos that you may want to see in your stat based on your journal. Yeah, that's a great idea. That's definitely a great idea. Something we should be looking at. So Yuan saying this seems low from the 108 trades. Yeah, we just went through 20 just to give an example. We didn't go through the whole thing that could take a lot of time. It would take me a lot of time on camera. That'd be a lot of dead time. It's not worth it. This is just to give the example of how to do the exercise. So yes. So this is the exercise. Now, there's a couple things that we have to add into this here, and this is super important. So the first thing is that in terms of measuring the plus R, you have to measure it from the original stop loss. That's why it's very important that you track in your journal and in your performance and in your trades what is your original stop loss. Some of you may manage your trades. Some of you may manage your stop loss. And if you are doing that, then you have to look at this as, hey, what was my take profit in relationship to my original stop loss? Because if you adjust the stop loss several points, it wouldn't make sense to say, hey, what's your average plus R, because it's not your original stop loss. We're trying to find out, based on your original analysis, whether you should be going for 2.5, 3R, 3.5, 4R, what can you consistently hit? Now, in terms of managing trades, it's important to understand that there is kind of a spectrum. And if we were to draw it, like here's the trade. Let's say this is your entry. And here's your take profit. And here's your stop loss. I'm not saying this is like the exact measurements, pips or points or dollars or stocks or whatever it is. What I'm saying is here's your stop loss, here's your entry, here's your take profit. So when you measure it, you have to measure from the original stop loss. If you trail your stop loss on some of your trades and they're less than your original stop loss, but they're below your entry, that wouldn't really be a good technique now, because you would only have a partial idea of what your original analysis was. In terms of your take profit, there could be scenarios where your original take profit gets reduced because you start to realize, this thing doesn't have as much momentum or strength as I thought it was. Or there could be a scenario where you start to have high momentum in a trade and you start extending your take profits. Again, you wouldn't want to measure that because we're looking to how can we refine your ability to choose and place and improve your take profits based upon your original analysis. If you want to improve your take profits when you're going to adjust your take profits up and down, then you have to do a separate analysis for each trade. You have to go through a managed process, and that's totally different process, and that's beyond the scope of what we want to teach in this. But it is important to understand that if you are someone who adjusts your take profit down or up, you will have to learn to improve that as well. And this is the difference. This analysis, this exercise that we just had you do, I'm willing to bet, other than my students who I've shared this technique with before a few times, I'm willing to bet 95% of you did not do this exercise. If you have done this exercise before, put a 1 in the chat. If you have not, put a 2 in the chat. Let me know. I would be willing to bet 75, 80+% of you, maybe more, maybe even 90% have not been doing this exercise. Victor's a 2. Thank you for being honest. Yuan Video says, got it. Thank you. Yes. So who else? 2 if you haven't, 1 if you have. Let me know. Uh-oh. This one's running out. Javier McCorrick. Javier, good to see you. It's been a while. Constantine, I didn't learn this. We've taught it in the TTM course. Yuan is saying 2 still working on the 108 trades. Copy that. 2 Colbert. Okay, so nobody so far has said that they are doing this. This is an important point to make because a lot of you, I am willing to bet that if you are not profitable, you have spent the majority of your time in terms of improving your performance, chart reading, patterns, strategy. How can I improve my entry? How can I do this? What candlesticks, bars, indicators, and things like this. And probably very few of you have been working on your analytical skills. As I said, you have to have 4 skills to make money trading, buying and selling decisions, analytical skills, risk management skills, mindset skills. Any one of these are lacking, you're not going to make money. So if you are under working or exercising or training in any one of these skills, let's be honest, you really have nobody else to blame for your performance but yourself. Now that's, not something to beat yourself out of. It's now that you know that, now you know what you have to do and at least some of the things you have to do to improve your performance. You have to start working on your analytical skills. But this is the difference between someone who is a professional and someone who is just barely making money, is that the professional is going to do more work of what needs to be done versus the person who's barely making money. And the person who's losing money, generally it's not a question of effort in terms of time. I'm willing to bet a lot of you put a lot of time into being profitable. So it's not a question of you putting in time and effort. It's that you're putting your time and effort too much in one area and not enough in another area. And some of those areas that you're not putting attention to, oftentimes those can be the difference between winning and losing. Oftentimes that can be the difference between down 5% to down 1% on a month, or break even versus profitable. This is a game of margins. Trading is a performance-based endeavor. Every margin matters. I don't know if you all have been watching the Euro Cup. I have been. One interesting statistics that's happened in the playoffs, every team that got a red card lost. Every team. There wasn't a single team that got a red card and won. So what does that tell you? It tells you that in a game that comes down to every effort counts, just a little bit of margin can mean the difference between you winning and losing. The Netherlands was a better team than the Ukrainian side. Netherlands got a red card. They lost the game. Same happened in the Sweden game versus I think Czech Republic. Or maybe it was Netherlands, Czech Republic, and Sweden, Ukraine. I forget which was. But both of those teams played another team that they got a red card. And that red card was the difference between them winning the game and losing the game. Trading is a game of margins. Every margin matters. If you ignore some of them, fine. Don't be mad at anybody for not making money but yourself. Don't blame the broker. Don't blame the market. Don't blame the spreads. Don't blame the mentor. Don't blame the strategy. You need to take that focus. You need to take that blame and put it squarely onto you. This is a game of margins. It's a performance-based endeavor. Every margin matters. And the difference between a pro who is going to have a gangster year at 50, 100% returns and the person who's making 5%, yeah, there's some differences in terms of pattern recognition skills, in terms of emotional IQ and all these things. But the pro is doing this meta-type analysis. They're looking for a 1% edge in everything that they do. They look for 1% edge here. They look for 1% edge there. Look for 1% edge there. And pretty soon, they've found enough edges to where it all stacks up, and now they're making 50 to 100% a year versus the person who's break even or maybe making 1 or 2% and who's sitting in their trading chair the same number of hours as the pro. It's not a question of time. Y'all are putting in the time. But the problem is that for every hour that you're spending in front of the computer and working on trading and trying to improve your performance, I'm willing to bet 90% of it is just looking at charts. Just how can I improve my pattern recognition skills? How can I improve this strategy? Should I add this indicator? Should I add this skill? Should I do this? I'm willing to bet 90+% of that is the chart time. And maybe 10% is for mindset and risk management and analytics. And that's going to be a problem because you're not doing these exercises. This exercise can mean the difference between 5 more wins out of 100. And you may think, oh, that's not that much. That could be the difference between winning and losing. For me, I average about 3R per win. So for every $1,000 that I risk, I'm making $3,000 profit. So if I think about it, 5 wins out of every 100, that's an extra $15,000. That could be the difference between winning and losing on any given month or any given quarter. That could be the difference. Never discredit small wins or gains or any improvements at all. You all are looking for the one shot, the silver bullet, the one thing that will solve all your problems, that will take you from here to there. There is no bullet, there is no train, there is no car, there is no bus, there is no strategy, there is no mentor, there is none of those things that's going to take you in one shot from where you are now to gangster profitability. It is all these little improvements that add up that eventually amount to a big result. That's the difference. I do this analysis. You're not. I'm finding small little ways to improve a couple percent here, a couple percent there, a couple percent there. And when I repeat that 50, 100 times, that could be the difference between maybe making 50 to 100% return on a year and you making 5%. It's not that I'm smarter. I'm definitely not. Some of you are way smarter than I am. Sasha's smarter than I am. Some of you have probably more talent. Some of you probably have better pattern recognition skills. But I do these little things. That's the difference between Michael Jordan and, your average pro in the NBA who's not really known that well. Because he kept doing all these little things that added up to a big result. And so you got to just decide, where do you want to be? Do you want to be someone who just repeats the cycle of suffering over and over again in trading? You spend tens of hours every single week in front of the charts, making trades, losing a lot, winning a lot, ending up break even or slightly losing for the quarter or for the month or for the year. Doing the same things over and over again. If you want to, you're welcome to that. Keep at it. Let me know how it works in a year or two from now. Let me know if that gets you to someplace new. Taking the same route to work every single day doesn't get you to a new place. Same goes for trading. If you want to start making a difference, you have to start making changes. This is one of those changes. It's small, but it adds up. Pretty soon you start finding 3 or 5 of these data points, you might be profitable. Without changing your strategy, without changing your skills, without changing your chart reading abilities, you might be profitable. This exercise may be the difference between you being losing and break even, or break even and profitable, or maybe even losing and profitable. The exercise we taught on stop losses may be the difference between losing and break even and profitable, or losing and profitable. Y'all think there's like something in the charts that you're missing that is the difference between here and making money, here in the BMW, here in the 6-bedroom house. It has nothing to do with that one thing. It's all these little things that stack up. There is no one pivotal moment in your trading career that's going to take you from where you are now that you're just like, oh, not a profitable trader, I suck, everything like that. Oh, I have this one pivotal moment, now I'm a profitable trader. It's not how it works. That is not how it works. It's a bunch of little things over time that accumulate into big wins. That's how success is done. So out of all the people that have answered, and a bunch of you didn't, nobody said they were doing this exercise. Nobody. I'm willing to bet the exercise you are doing have to do with charts. I'm willing to bet. Okay, with that being said, Victor says, learning, so my toolbox is expanding. Glad I'm here, and I think I will trade 4-hour chart. It'll take me a while to get those numbers big enough to analyze. Yeah, you can also increase the number. If you're trading a 4-hour chart, by default, you're going to have less setups. So how do you increase the feedback loop? And your feedback loop is the trades you make, and the market gives you feedback on that. How do you increase the feedback loop? You expand the number of instruments that you trade so that you can keep your trade frequency enough. Because if you only make a few trades a month, you're going to need years of data before you actually realize whether what you're doing is going to work or not. That's a flawed system. You know, you don't turn somebody into a professional football player by going to practice 4 times a month. You become a professional football player by going to practice 5-6 days a week and playing games every single week. You know, if you look at professional sports, do they just practice like, you know, when they're in season, do they just practice, we'll just practice on like Mondays and Fridays and then maybe play a couple games a month and we'll see how it works out? Like, no. They're practicing for hours every day. It's a feedback loop. It's a very fast feedback loop. They make plays, they get feedback, it works, it doesn't. Okay, I need to adjust my shot or my position or my throw, whatever it is, or my kick. It's a constant level of feedback. You need that to grow. If you're only getting 3-4 trades a month, you're going to need, statistically, 100 trades just to have a baseline to even determine statistically whether what you're doing is working or not. At 4 trades a month, how many months is that? 2 years. That's 2 years. That's not a feedback loop. That's 2-year experiment in which you might realize by the end of it, wow, my strategy totally doesn't work. Great, now you got to spend another 2 years. You're going to have gray hair like I do by the time you realize that your strategy doesn't work. That's not an effective feedback loop. Super important. Victor was saying is Netherlands versus Czech. Copy that. Yeah. That game was dead even. Got the red card. Boom. Czech goes ahead. Scores another goal. Game over. That was it. Same thing with the Sweden-Ukraine. Sweden held on for a long period of time. Sweden held on to the last 3 minutes of the game in overtime. Extra periods. Lost. The recent game, Spain versus Switzerland, relatively even. Shots on goal. You know, Spain had a little more possession, but Spain always does. What happens when it goes to penalties? Switzerland gets a red card in the first extra time period. So what happens? Or no, they got it right before the end of the game, the first regular period. So then they had to go 2 extra periods, 30 minutes, with no 11th player on the field. They get to penalties. Switzerland had won their last game on penalties. They should have had the advantage. Spain had been missing penalties all throughout the tournament. What happened to Switzerland? Their shooters were too exhausted to put power on it or place it right. They missed 3. They had never missed 3 like that in years. They were too exhausted. Games are won on small margins. Same goes for trading. Super, super important. Constantine is saying, at least I'm glad I have so many possibilities to increase my profitability. Yeah, most of you have a lot more ways to increase profitability than you think. There are many ways to increase your profitability. I'm just sharing with you in the summer school, this lesson and the last lesson, a couple ways to increase your profitability. These are things that I teach my members in my trading masterclass. We teach them a lot more. So this is just 2 ways to increase your profitability. There are hundreds of ways to increase your profitability that have nothing to do with the charts. Pure analytics. Alex Graham has a question. Can I learn to trade while working a 9-to-5 job? Yes, most of my traders do. Most of my traders have a 9-to-5 job. You can totally learn to trade while working a 9-to-5 job. Let's be honest, Alex. If you have a 9-to-5 job, maybe you have kids, maybe you don't, whatever, you probably have about 2 hours a day. 1 to 2 hours a day to study trading. Does that seem accurate? Let me know in the chat. Majority of my students that have the 9 to 5 job, when they come home from work, some have kids, some don't, some have girlfriends, boyfriends, some of them don't. But usually most people have a couple hours a day to work on trading. And so if that is the case, Graham's saying yes, a couple hours a day. Okay. Let's be honest. Is there going to be a difference between having 2 hours a day versus 4 or 6 hours a day? Yes. There's going to be a difference. If I practice martial arts 2 hours a day versus 6 hours a day, obviously, assuming the same level of concentration, focus, effort, and everything like that, assuming all that, there's going to be a difference between me practicing 6 hours a day versus 2 hours a day. But is 2 hours a day sufficient? Absolutely. You can learn a ton of information in 2 hours, even an hour and a half. There's a reason why when you go to university, classes on a whole are generally 1 to 2 hours. There's a reason for that. The brain generally learns in spurts of 1 to 2 hour increments, and then it usually needs a break. There's a reason why school is designed that way. I optimize, like when I'm learning a new skill, I optimize my learning so that I study in 2 hour increments. And then after that, I give my brain a break. And I do other things. And then if I have more time in the day, then I will come back and spend more time on that. But I don't do 4 6 hour sessions in a row, because after a certain point, the learning tapers off. Your working memory, your cognitive workload, all these things, they start to degrade in performance. So 1 to 2 hours a day, you can learn how to trade. In the beginning, I only started off with a few hours a day. Totally workable. 2 hours is a lot. 1 to 2 hours is plenty. So yes, totally workable. Most of my students are in your position, 9 to 5 jobs, only a couple hours a day. If you only have a couple hours a day, you just have to be really efficient with your time. Use it to your maximum, schedule it, set periods if you can, ideally the same hours every single day, and make sure you have a very specific routine for how to use those 2 hours. I teach my traders how to build a routine. Whether it's learning, whether it's practicing, whether it's actual trading, you need to have a routine. That will really improve that time that you have. That will help you get the best out of it. Javier McCombie saying absolutely possible. Learning options helps considerably. Yeah, learning options. A lot of people learning options trading has felt like their trading has changed to a massive level. Yo on video saying I'm learning trading with a full-time job, allocating 1 hour early in the morning West Coast. But I realize that consistency is critical. Consistency is very critical. What have I said for... I even did a video on this. I said it many years ago. There is no consistency in trading without consistency in your mind. There has to be consistency in your trading. And the only way to get that is through consistency in your mind. And what is one way that you can build consistency in your mind? Consistency in your practice. Consistency in the times of the day that you look at the markets. That's super important. Consistency in building any habit is key. Partially because of how the brain works. Your brain works through plasticity. Neuroplasticity. It's the ability for cells to form new connections and learn new skills and habits. How do you get those cells to form new networks and connections and new habits? Well, the first law, or the first kind of rule of neuroplasticity, is neurons that fire together wire together. If I fire this neuron and I fire this neuron, they activate each other. Well, and they're constantly activating each other. Eventually, they form these strong connections and bonds, and you do that through enough of them, and they form a habit. But you have to do that consistently. If you do it sometimes this day and then nothing for the next few days, and then 3 days later you do it a couple times, and you do it at night and day and things like that, those cells are not going to fire together. Part of building habits is using that neuroplasticity, neurons that fire together, wire together. How do you get them to fire together? By consistently activating them through the same habits, through the same times of the day. That is super important. Consistency is absolutely critical. Very good point, Yuan. Very good point. Okay, any last questions on today's summer school? I know it's a holiday. I appreciate y'all coming on holiday. Some of you are probably wanting to still be at the beach. I thought about it. But But I do appreciate you all coming on holiday. So any questions before we wrap it up? Yuan, are you Yuan Fusher in our course? I have a Yuan in our course. And I think you have the same spelling, so I'm just curious. Okay. If you are, copy that. Okay, good to see you. If you haven't already, hit the like button. We appreciate it. It supports the channel. It lets YouTube know, hey, we spent time in this. This was valuable to us. This helped us. So, and they see that, and then they help our channel reach a bigger audience, and that helps us. We do this for free. I spent an hour on my holiday doing this for free. Bronwen and just subscribed. Welcome aboard. Good to have you on the channel. So we appreciate it. Next Monday, I will be doing another summer school session. We don't have the topic yet. I'm working on the topic. We will announce it on our community channel. So if you subscribe to our channel and sign up for notifications, you will get a notification anytime we post something or we are going live so that you can be there and join the class live for that. So with that being said, subscribe, hit the notifications button, hit that like button. We really appreciate it. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found something in this class that just gives you a little bit of a small edge to help you improve in just a small way. And if we keep doing this week after week after week, these small improvements are going to add up to big results. And pretty soon, if you keep doing that, if you make small improvements every week, every month, it is inevitable that you will become profitable. Eventually, all of those will stack up to a point where they will outweigh your weaknesses, your lack of skills, your mistakes, and that will be you turning profitable. You keep doing that, it is inevitable. There's no way around it. So you want to find your way to profitability, just keep stacking up these small wins, these small improvements, and eventually that will overcome your weakness and you will be profitable. There's no way around it. If you keep doing that, you will become profitable. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you guys have a great time on the rest of your holiday off today. Markets are open back tomorrow, so I will see members for the pre-market commentary tomorrow. And other than that, good luck trading, and I will see you guys next time. Take care, everyone.